All right. Welcome back in the show. And let's get right to it. We're going to talk about coaching moves. And we'll do it like the draft we did with the way too early power rankings we did last year. We're going to talk about coaching moves because there was a lot of them. A lot of them. So we want to get right into it. So, Asher, I'll start with you here. What was the main coaching move that surprised you? And one of them could be one that we had breaking news on while we were recording. So,
Yeah, that one was, as you know, one of my favorites. I'm
yeah.
gonna shy away from that one because that one's gotten the worst press since we've stopped that podcast. I don't know if we cursed it, but holy cow, are
Yeah.
people upset with that guy?
Yeah.
And that obviously being Indiana hiring DeVries, which we can get into if you want. But no, my favorite move is actually going to be VCU hiring Phil Martelli Jr. I thought that was a really really impressive job by VCU, whose coach obviously got poached, as many of them did after the tournament, and turned right around and hired Bryant's head coach, got them to the finals, or not, sorry, to the finals, to the NCAA tournament this year. And VCU is a very interesting team, right? They were a one bid conference in the A10. Last year we saw four, right? This is a very impressive unit that can be, kind of tough to win in. And VCU was so good that they lost a lot of their players and their coach for the second time in 3 years, right? That's not easy to do in college basketball. And what do? They hire a familiar face, right? Martelli was an assistant there when they were on their last tournament run. He got experience at Bryant. He won at Bryant, right? Implemented his system. He's coming to VCU. He's bringing his dad with him as an
Yeah.
assistant coach. I think that is
That's
not only a
awesome.
feel good story, right? He had that awesome quote after the loss to Michigan State about how his family chose basketball, right? How they chose to follow him, but also a story of success, right? Can you go win on your own, right? Can you win like your dad won at St. Joseph's? Can you do it in the same conference, right? Now they're bringing in
Yeah.
another A10 team, right, to the Martelli name. So I'm very excited to see which players follow him. I'm excited to see what they do. I think the A10 is going to have a bounce back year, right? Watch out for Dayton, Duquesne, other tournament teams. But I'm very excited for VCU and what they're going to build with Martelli.
Yeah. I mean, tournament team this year and like bringing in a star coach, like a star coach. He was the coach of, I think, like with all of the mid major talk, and I'll probably talk about the next mid major with the Iowa hire as well. But, like all of that, I think Phil Martelli Jr. was the star other than Ben McCullum. Like he was a stud. Like throughout the whole tournament, that Bryan team, like they played State hard. If you watch that
They
first
did.
half, they were like, you were like, "Whoa, is State on upset alert?" And I thought they were very impressive throughout. It was a good Bryant team, and bringing Bryant to that stage, like it's huge. It's huge for the mid-major programs. Like when Oakland got there last year, and like everybody expected, oh, we'd lose first round, and even if we did, like this was a big time year for Oakland University. And that's
Yep.
what it was for Bryant. Like
Yep.
that's like their Super Bowl. So I really think he deserves all the flowers and he's going to bring a a lot to VCU. I think they're going to be
Definitely.
a legit mid-major next year. All right, so my pick would be Iowa, Ben McCullum. I mean, you saw what he did with Drake. Like it was just flat out incredible. They were the mid major, like they played Texas Tech hard, and it showed you how good Texas Tech was. That was a really hard fought game. Texas Tech had to shoot the lights out to win that game, and Bennett Sturts is that guy, man. Like I really think Iowa has a chance to be like top 10 in the country next year with Sturts. Like I think Sturts is going to be one of the best college athletes like next year and looking at Wooden Award possibly. I think he's that talented. And I think when you got like the Iowa like basketball base that they've built with girls basketball and that they've built with Fran McCaffrey for as long as he'd been, he was incredible coach there. I think with that base, like I was going to be a city where you're like, man, like they're going to be back for the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think that he was the most impressive coach, like you said, like top two with mid majors, but just like everyone knew his name and he was a D2 coach last year, right? Like he clearly
Yeah.
made an impact as Drake's coach. I'm a little nervous about how quick he's moving, right? Like that's like going from
Yeah.
the big D2 to the Big Ten in 2 years. Like I know DeVries was hopping around too, but at least he like had a couple of years underneath him. So
Hmm.
interested to see like what players still have eligibility to come with them, right? Who he's able to recruit. It sounds like he knows what to do. The thing that gives me a lot of confidence is that he's able to change how he coaches and still be successful, right?
Yeah.
Like his style at Drake had to be different because Drake runs, what was it, the slowest offense in the
Yep.
country or something like
Yep.
that. next to St. Mary's. Iowa's known for scoring 90 plus a game with Fran, right? And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're going
Yep.
to want to shoot the ball. That's how we're going to want to win in this conference. Like, he's already able to, change kind of how he is approaching. I don't want to say better players, but like different players. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's super exciting for Iowa. So I agree. One of the best minds, best coaches. We'll see how he recruits. He could do it in D2 level. Let's see about
Yeah.
high major D1. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting for sure. All right, who is your second guy that you
Yeah,
like?
it wouldn't be a podcast with me if I didn't talk about my guy, now the head coach of the NC State Wolfpack, Will Wade. I think we mentioned it last time because he had already accepted the job, right,
Yeah.
before he even started the tournament, which, very interesting move, right, to tell your players that you're on the way out. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it ended up working out, right? McNeese State looked really good in that first round. They came to play. Now a lot of them are going to NC State, right? He's a guy that knows how to work the transfer portal, knows how to recruit both illegally and legally now, as we know. And he's going to a state or a university at NC State that is requiring excellence, like flat out. They had a Final Four coach and they fired him for not making the tournament, right? Give him 2 years, right? I get that. After the first year, they fired him, right? No, we need the best. They went and got Will Wade.
Crazy.
He put in time at McNeese, right? He kind of
Mm-hmm.
rose back from coach's purgatory, if you will, stayed an extra year to help them get that tournament win. Now he's going to NC State. I'm super excited about that move. That's probably my favorite of all the coaches to watch for next year because the ACC is not down, but maybe available, right? I think NC State's going to be really good.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it'll be interesting. Will Wade definitely did a fantastic job with McNeese, back-to-back tournament appearances, and then the win this year. But like bringing those guys with him will be huge. And like you said, he's great with the transfer portal. He's great with bringing in guys that way. He was known as the gangster. That's what people called him in the past. So I mean, I'm not worried there at all. I wanted to touch on NC State. Like, I still can't believe they fired Kevin Keatts. Like, I'm
It's
still
crazy.
shocked about it. And the crazy thing is now it's rubbing off on NBA teams, and you got NBA teams firing their coaches at the end of the year. Mike Malone's gone today, and I'm like, what do you expect from the coaching job? Like, Malone was there 10 years, winning like constantly. And I partly get it because the GM's gone and NBA has all the politics, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, Keats was there and they were winning, right? Like, it just shows you like how much like you can go from here. But if you're not there again, like you're right back on the hot seat. Like you have to have like standing in a program. And to me, it's still crazy that it just happened like that. And they're like, I mean, I love the hire of Will Wade. I'm just shocked still with the Kevin Keatts.
Yeah, I agree. It's weird. I think, NBA and NCAA are a lot more alike now than they've ever have been. Maybe not in style
Yeah.
of play, but how they're paying people, And NBA programs don't want to get stuck paying a coach $10 million a year because he won a couple playoff games, right? They want to get rid of him early. Same with here. You don't want to pay mediocrity, right? These are people that next to the football coach are the highest paid employee in their state, right? They're making more money than every other state worker, in North Carolina, for example, right? You're not going to be able to pay him $5 million, $3 million a year without success, right? You're already trying to put that money into new players. It's kind of like getting a rookie quarterback, right? Let's see what we can do with some more money and a new face. That's what they're doing here with Will Wade. So I don't know. I think that coaches are finally starting to feel the heat maybe of a player, when they're not getting paid as much as they should yet and have to succeed in year one and how they can do it. And that might be good for the sport. I think there'll be a little bit of rebalancing. I think NC State moved a little quick, but excited for Will Wade.
Yeah. No, I mean, and talking about that, it kind of leads into my next guy, which is Kevin Willard, who moved from Maryland to Villanova. And part of it is the NIL backing, right? He didn't feel like he had enough at Maryland and decided to go to Villanova. And it's partly where we're thinking of like the kind of a salary cap type system with the NIL. And in that system, the Big East would be the teams that benefit the most, right? A Big Ten would be capped, SEC would be capped because most of their money they're going to the football programs. And that's part of the reason. Probably another guy we'll talk about, Buzz Williams, probably went off right to Maryland and the Big Ten. So I think it's really interesting there. But focusing on Willard here, I didn't like how he left. I really didn't. It was a lot of media and, to be honest, like a lot of brutal honesty to the media that I just didn't think needed to be put in there. We talked about Dusty May, I think, in a past episode when he was asked about the Indiana job, and I think he answered it perfectly. He answered it perfectly, being like, I would love that job, but like, that's not my focus is Michigan University right now. And I feel like that should be your focus when your team is in the Sweet 16 and you're just coming off of a buzzer beater by Derek Queen to get you there, right? So I didn't love that, but I think what he's bringing to Villanova is going to be like winning. I think they're going to be able to win with that system. They're going to have money to throw at him. He's going to have the resources now. And he brought in a guy like Derek Queen, who's a stud. He's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft. I mean, one of the most electrifying bigs we saw in college basketball last year. So I think if he's able to continue bringing in guys like that, attacking the transfer portal with his new resources, I mean, Villanova is definitely going to be a team to play. And I think Willard's a fantastic coach. Like what he did with Maryland this year was very, very impressive, bringing them back to this stage and where Maryland basketball wants to be. So I'm very impressed with Willard and the job he did. Just didn't love how he went to Villanova.
Yeah, I agree. I think that entire situation was handled correctly up until Willard had a press conference, right? And, to defend the guy for 2 seconds, like the whole idea that the transfer portal and coaches leaving can happen, the first week of the tournament is ridiculous, right?
It is.
Coaches are basically locked into not answering questions while getting thrown $7 million contracts left and right. It's, absolutely absurd that they can't just focus on their team, right? Transfer portal should have opened today. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
These guys aren't going to class. Let's just call it what it is, right? They
Yeah.
got to get into the school just for basketball. We can push it off a little bit, right? So I think Willard was frustrated with that, right? The timing. I think he was frustrated with not having an athletic director, which I totally understand, right? It's not like he had someone who can say, oh, he has my back, or someone that he can say, oh, this guy's working on my contract, right? He had nobody. It was just him answering these questions. And that's super tough to do. He didn't feel like he was supported. I think he could handle it a little better. I think he will in the future. Overall, spin it to Villanova side, super happy that they took a swing on this guy, right? Villanova doesn't have a basketball team. Doesn't have a football team in Division One. They're all on, basketball. Their donors are all on basketball. They went and got their guy. Big East talent, right? Used to be at Seton Hall. Super familiar with the opponents they're going to be playing against. I really like that hire. I think he's going to do really well at Villanova.
Yeah, no, I do too. I think he's a great coach, and I really think with those resources, it might be scary. Who's your third guy? Do you got?
Yeah, I think that there were a lot of good shakeups in maybe I wouldn't say the mid majors, but the lower Power 5, Power 6 conferences, And one that I thought was super impressive was UNLV hiring Josh Pastner. So
Okay.
UNLV, I believe, is going to be a future Pac-12 team, right? So rising from Midwest to Pac-12, which a lot of those Mountain West teams are doing. Mountain West known for basketball, right? 4, 5, 6, 7 tournament teams every year, super impressive group. It's not easy to win there. People will consider them mid-major, but they're, easily the right outside of the Power 5 in terms of basketball performance. UNLV, right? A staple in the Pac-12, getting Las Vegas as a market, went and hired a guy who's been out of the game for a couple of years, but known as one of the best basketball minds of coaching. When he was at Georgia Tech, his style of play, he was getting NBA looks. He was a guy that was really close with Jay Wright, John Beilein, people in that circle, Calipari, right? They looked to Pastner for how they should coach their own teams. Took a couple of years off after leaving Georgia Tech, right? When became an analyst, wanted to get back in the game, something we're not seeing happening a lot, right? You don't see a lot of, what NBA coach is coming back, or what, maybe disconnected guys coming in here. College basketball has become a hard place to win, right? So for him to take a couple years off, see where the state of college basketball is at, and then want to come back to UNLV fresh, I think is super, relieving for the sport, right? Something that is going to be super fun to watch, right? What has he learned in the past 3 years, being already one of the best coaches, now going to a program that's elevating to the Power 5 level, right? What are they going to be able to bring to the West Coast? So I think it's super exciting. I think he'll bring in a lot of talent. He's already obviously hit the portal hard, but UNLV was pretty good during the year. They're going to keep a lot of talented people that, want to make a tournament run. It's been a while, right? This used to be the best team in the West, right? This used to be a national championship winning team. They have basketball in their blood. They want to put money into this. What is Josh Pastner going to be able to do with it? I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a market you want. That is a market you want. So that's really exciting to bring a coaching name like that back
It
to
feels like
UNLV.
Pitino to St. John's for me. It feels like, basketball royalty to basketball school. And I think that, we saw it with Pitino, who's obviously leagues above in terms of success, but we saw it with what he did to a desolated St. John's program that used to be at the top of college basketball. I think Pastner can do something similar. UNLV might take him a little longer, but I think he can do something similar over there.
I love it. I love it. My last guy, I'm gonna go down to Miami, Jay Lucas,
Nice.
with Duke. I think it was a great hire. Duke, unbelievable year. Jay Lucas been with Duke for a little while. Gotten to learn under Shire. And I know Shire's getting some complaints here with the Duke standard and all of that. But to be honest with you, I think he's doing a fantastic job. I think he did a great job with this team. I think you want to win a national championship with how much talent you have, but the way he utilized the talent throughout the whole season was awesome. Okay. And a collapse like that, to be honest, like, yes, it's a little on him. It's a little on everybody. To be honest, if I'm looking at it, I blame him more on my guards. Not gonna lie, I mean, there's a lot of turnovers there, and you're Duke. You shouldn't be crumbling to a team like Houston at the end of the game when you took care of the ball pretty well throughout the game. So that's my take there. But Lucas, I think he's gonna bring like just an awesome crew to Miami, and having that Miami area, dude. Like everybody wants to be in Miami. It's just the truth. I know they're a football school. I know all that, but I mean, look at what Larinaga did with this team. Like they can be a basketball market. They can be a Final Four team. And I think Lucas can bring some wins to it. I'm not sure if I'm not going to say national championship or Final Four or anything like that, but I think if getting this team back to a common tournament team, common 7 seed, common 6 seed, I think that's a win for Miami if you want to bring in more money to the program. And I think that would be what Lucas can do. And I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I like that take a lot. I think that, Miami knew they were going to, kind of like Virginia, they knew they were going to move on to a head coach pretty early, right? So they were able to put in the time, kind of see who was interested, who had connections, who was doing well, right? And obviously you're going to look at Duke, someone in your own conference who knows how to play, knows how to win, someone who is on a staff that's been built pretty, the right way for the last 5 years. And they're looking to apparently do the same thing in Miami. Their success in sports has gone up in the last couple of years, right? They're another program that will respond when sports are good. So, especially when basketball is playing well. So I'm very excited for him. I think he's going to do great there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm really, really excited there. So let's look at one mid major. Okay. I wanted to get one mid major.
One mid major.
So, yeah.
All right. Let's see. Between a couple, but I think the one that, and I hope I don't steal yours, but the one that that stuck out to me was speaking of NBA guys, how about Mike Bibby taking over for Sacramento State?
All right. I love it.
Obviously, not a lot known about Sacramento State. They play on the West Coast. They're in a one bid league. You got to win that tournament. So maybe just the start of his coaching career. But I think you look at the success of first year coaches out of the NBA, like Penny Hardaway or even Juwan Howard his first year at Michigan, or different guys that had experience playing, at both levels, not only college, but then elevating. I think that attracts a certain talent, right? That attracts high school players that want to maybe stop in college for 1 year before going to the pros, or want to develop to be a professional athlete, not just to win in college, right? And that's an exciting form of basketball. And the state of California has the most recruits, as we know, in basketball, right? They're going to fall to those smaller schools. And Sacramento State, has no excuse, right? They are one of, probably, I want to say a billion, but like one of a million college universities in California that have a chance to make the tournament, right? So look at UC San Diego, right? Look at San Francisco, where Todd Golden came from. You never know where it's going to come out of. You never know who's going to get that talent that year. So Mike Bibby definitely has the name, definitely has the swagger that players are going to want to play for. And no reason he can't be successful. I'll be rooting for him.
Yeah. No, I'm excited about that one. I think bringing an NBA name back like that, it's really going to help your NIL identity. It really does, because Bibby has those great connections throughout the NBA, throughout all of that. And when you have connections like that in this NIL era, yeah, I mean, like, look at football, look at Deion. Like it's the same kind of deal there. And for a team like Sacramento State, it can really get them on the map and maybe get them in the tournament one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my guy, I want to talk about my guy. I'm very excited about this guy because I actually got to meet him. And this is Ryan Pannone, who got hired at Arkansas State. And Arkansas State was a team I watched very closely throughout the year because they were one of my mid-major sleepers. Brian Hodgkin was the coach there. He was a longtime Alabama assistant, and they played Alabama this year. They only lost by 2 points and scared the crap out of them at the beginning of the year. And after that game, I was like, "Whoa, I'm circling them. They're going to be a tournament team. I'm locked in." Right. And then later in the year, they go to Memphis and they beat Memphis. And I'm like, man, I am locked in. Like, this is that team. And then they struggled in conference. They played a very difficult conference and they picked it up late. They made the conference championship game and lost in their tournament. But then Hodgkins got the job at South Florida, which left the job open. Okay. So then Pannone gets the job. Pannone was at Alabama last year. He came and talked at the BCAM clinic this past summer, and I got to meet him. He is an unbelievable mind. Okay. He was assistant coach with the Pelicans for a while. He was an assistant coach in I don't know where, but it was definitely like in the Africa, kind of area with the foreign leagues as well. He was there for a while as well. And to be honest with you, like he's just a stud when it comes to NBA minds. Like he has a whole YouTube page like dedicated to teaching you how to understand offenses, how to understand defenses, and I really respect like the way he watches the game, and he had everybody at the clinic hooked when he was there. Unbelievable speaker, really impressive. And I think this Arkansas State job is absolutely perfect. And it seems like they're feeding off of Alabama assistants. It really does. But I mean, like Alabama, like Oates has one of the best programs in the country, man. We've seen it time and time again. Final Four last year, and then Elite Eight this year. Like they're always all over it. And it's from the analytics approach. Like Pannone told me, like they have the best analytics program in the world. Like he's never seen it better. He was with the Pelicans. He was with everywhere else, and he's never seen it better than that. So taking like everything that he's gotten, I think is going to be very important. And he also has a very good social media following, which I think is going to help him in recruiting. It's going to help him in the transfer portal. I'm really excited about this hire because Arkansas State has been they were so close last year. And you're bringing in a guy to me that's very similar to Hodgkins, who I think could do a great job at South Florida too. Is another team I'm watching, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think that was an excellent shout out because I remember that Arkansas State game. That was, unbelievable. And all they did was kept showing the coach, like, this guy knows what Alabama's running. This guy was on the staff last year, right? He wanted this game. I think you're going to get that same energy, right, with hiring another assistant who probably got great recommendations from the coach that's leaving, right? Which is a little interesting. You don't want to be the university that's losing players or losing coaches every year. But if you can show that, like, hey, we're a stepping stone program, bring your players, bring your talent, right? We'll pay you, and then you can either go to a next university or you can be our head coach for life, right? Like it's a lot of trust, I think, from that Alabama tree. So I'm very excited to see what he can do. I think they can have a much better year than they even had last year, right? I think they could make some noise as like a upset team. That's what you really want from someone like Arkansas State. So would love to see that happen, but I think he'll be there for, a while and put in some good years and then probably get offers, sooner than later. So.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited about that team. I think they're going to be scary. We went through a lot of coaching hires and didn't even get to Richard Pitino and DeVries and Buzz Williams. So are there any thoughts on those three before we get out of here?
Yeah, I think that, as much as we love the rise from maybe mid-major to Power Five more, there were a lot of, trading coaches, Buzz Williams in his third spot in what seems like 5 years, right? DeVries obviously got a lot of heat for doing that. Pitino playing his father in the Big East, that's super exciting. And then you had Miller, right? Ditched
Miller
the school
well.
that let him come back to go to Texas. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think those were like solid, like this is his job for life moves, right? This is like hey, this is your second shot, like this is your second Power Five job. You got to show us, right? Like we're bringing you in to show us how to win. We're not bringing you in because you're already have it figured out. So I think there's going to be a lot of coaches that kind of like players are starting to move a little quicker because you just don't have time, right? You don't have time to sit around and wait for a coach to figure it out. Players are leaving, right? They're not even going to stay with that same coach for 2 years, So we'll see. I think there's a lot of pressure on them. Excited about the Patinos, though. It's probably my favorite of all of them.
Yeah, I'm very excited about Pitino. I really think that DeVries is like a 1 to 2 year type deal with Tucker. Like I think Tucker can really make them really good next year. but I don't know like how sustainable that can be. And then Buzz, I'm excited for that. Like I
Me
think it's
too.
a good fit. Texas A&M has been very, very tough. We both picked him to go pretty far. I think you
Yeah.
had him Final Four, I had him Elite Eight, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think so. Or at
yeah,
least the Elite Eight. Yeah.
something like that. And
Hmm.
like I mean, he's built a program there, and he's built an identity, which I'm very positive about that. That one kind of shocked me, and I was very impressed with that one.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that
yeah,
Maryland responded well to what Willard did because, in
yeah.
my mind, Maryland's a basketball school. And I know
Hmm.
the money might show football and the recent success might show football because their football team is good, right? They have a head
Yeah.
coach who's established at Maryland and bowl games every year, right? Like, look at what Indiana did in football. Maryland's like, we want to do that, right? We want to make the playoffs. It was a team that might be under the radar. So, the money might say otherwise, but Maryland's a basketball school, right? If you don't count the fact that they're not in the Big Ten, right? They're the most recent Big Ten national champion in
Yeah.
2002. Like they used to be Duke's main rival back in the day. Like they are a basketball school, and so they looked at Willard and they were like, screw you, man, telling us that we're not,
Yeah.
providing for you. Now, if we're gonna go get a bigger name, we're gonna go get someone who's actually won in Division One, Power Five, right? And someone that might be feeling the same thing about Texas A&M, who definitely is a football school, the biggest NIL of any
Yeah.
football team. He's like, oh, I could do it, go win at Maryland, get a 4 seed at Maryland for a group that's already got 4 seed level talent. And I'm very impressed with that hire too. I do like Buzz a lot. I hope he stays for a while. I hope this isn't he'll then move on to a bigger program like Willard did. But I think he's a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really a crazy coaching environment. Like we're seeing it with the portal, with the coaching. Like it's flat out crazy and really an unbelievable season, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable, but super fun. I think next year will be exciting. Don't trust the AP poll for the first week because they have no idea who's good yet. But just like this year, I think we'll have an awesome November, right? Tough conferences, and then ultimately, another March, which is the best time of the year. So really fun year this year, though.
Yeah. No, I'm super excited. Super excited. Is there one thing for next year that you're looking forward to the most?
Ooh, I think that of all the storylines that have been created with like this coach has betrayed this university or this player is leaving everything he said he was going to do and he's at his fourth school in 4 years, like there's a lot of different pieces that you can track to, but I think BYU has got to be the number one story on
Yeah.
everyone's mind. You
Yeah.
mentioned him earlier. Not only are they keeping NBA talent at the school, they're keeping recruits and players that are there in the vicinity. They're keeping them at BYU. They're bringing in the highest paid freshman of all time and the
Hmm.
number one recruit, someone who clearly could have gone right to the NBA or gone to a semi-pro league and made some amazing money, decides to go to BYU of all places. Now, what might consider a basketball school known for being, Heisman level football is now being like, oh yeah, we made a deep run in March. Like, let's get the best player to return. Let's get our top foreign guy to consider coming back to BYU. I think BYU is definitely going to be the story of next year. They did well in the Big 12, can do better, will do better. I think it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I think that's a story for sure. I think that's a story. Well, Asher, big thank you for coming on the show, man. Another year done.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate you having me on. We'll do this forever. Next year going to be the best year yet for my bracket. So hang
Yes,
tight.
sir. Yes, sir. There's always next year. We can always look forward to it next year. Well, big thank you to Asher Smith for coming on the show. That's going to wrap up the show for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Peace.